You bring somebody on board and you really onboard them authentically. Hire an employee, a person that knows your company, that knows you, that knows what you want, and onboard them 1, 2, 3 months.
Hello, and thank you for joining us today on the Gentle Art of Crushing It show, where we focus on learning and sharing with our listeners all there is to know about how to create success in our lives. This show stands on the shoulders of giants. Our mission is to empower and inspire our listeners to create the life of their dreams whilst having a blast in the process. Let's celebrate life together. Welcome to the show.
I'm your host for today, Sean Graham, and today I have on the show with me a very good friend of mine, Dr. Jordan Kapper. Jordan is an ER doctor. He is also a self-storage investor, syndicator, developer. Today we get into everything from, going from being a doctor to a full-on commercial real estate investor, and kind of the details and the fun of growing a team, building a team, getting family involved, and then building remote teams and the power of hiring remote professionals, virtual assistants from all over the world in order to just grow at a significant pace. I think you'll really like it. I think you'll get a ton of value from it. Whether you are an investor yourself, a property manager, or just an individual self-storage owner. Take a listen to the show. If you like it, please subscribe and hit that like button. It means the world to us. That being said, we will go ahead and get started. Today, I have with me a repeat guest, great friend of mine, Jordan Kapper. Welcome to the show,
Greetings.
Jordan.
Hey, how we doing, Sean? Good to be here, man. Pretty excited for this episode. I think we got a lot to talk about. The core of what I want to get into here. We can just take all the side missions you want, and talk about random stuff, life in general, politics, philosophy, the impending artificial intelligence apocalypse. But really, I wanted to get into building teams and the importance of kind of what I've realized in the past several months. We're doing very, very well here at Lantern Light Capital, which is our real estate, namely self-storage investing company. We just acquired a couple more facilities, and we have a ground-up development deal going on right now, another one in the works, and we're just doing really well. And I started to kind of see the team just popping. Everybody is really working together very well. And it gets into the company that you and I started, Maven Success, which is a virtual assistant or remote employee staffing company. And there's just a lot to go in there. So, if we don't get too distracted by politics,
Absolutely,
philosophy,
man.
and AI, then we can stick to the topic.
Hey, I don't mind talking about any of that stuff with you, for sure. So let's do this. Let's first, why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself? Give them the background. You've been on the on the podcast before, but for those of us who do not know you, who is Dr. Jordan Kapper?
Yeah, so I'm a emergency medicine doctor. That's my training. I have a little bit of business background in college, but not a lot. So you do that standard medicine pathway, right? You do a pre-med, you do med school for 4 years, you do residency. And, it's a long time, right? It's 11
Absolutely.
years of training, and then boom, you're out there and you're working. And what I found is that it's very common, especially within emergency medicine, which is what I do, for these docs to pick up other aspects of business. And I did the standard, what I like to call kind of the standard route of a house hack, single family, multifamily. Oh, disregard my blue fingers. I was painting a self-storage signage on a new facility. Got to do a little boots on the ground. So I did the standard single family, multifamily, and then Sean and I, kind of went and said, hey, what is the best commercial asset class to get into? And we purposefully picked, I remember those conversations, right? Where we were looking at all these different things, whether we want to do larger multifamily apartments. We looked at doing trailer park kind of things, even the residential assisted living. And due to all of the historical factors, the kind of ease, if you will. God help me with saying that word.
Yeah.
It's not easy, but
No.
the simplicity of self-storage compared to, no toilets overflow in storage is kind of the little meme there.
Right.
We chose self-storage, right? And since
Absolutely.
then, I've built Lantern Light Capital along with my two partners, Ben, who's a fellow ER doctor, an absolute, he's like Iron Man. He has genius level intellect. The guy moves his brain moves 3 times the speed of a normal human, and just an amazing partner. You deploy Ben on something, and it's like, okay, it's already
Yeah.
done. All right, fine. And then we actually recently just onboarded my cousin. I was talking to you about this earlier, Gabe, who's a firefighter and just has the hustle of 10 men. The guy's absolutely amazing. So, kind of building this team and building out the remote team as well. A lot to go into there, and I'm just so proud of all of our crew. I kind of hate the corporate BS speak, like, oh, we're a team, keep going. But this is authentic. Like, I see my crew growing, I see the team growing,
Yep.
and really working together, and it's just something amazing.
So, how many self storage facilities do you have now?
We have 6 self-storage facilities.
6.
Yeah.
Wow. That is a lot. That is fantastic. And so you're doing, is it one of those is a ground up development or you have multiple ground up developments?
So one of the ground up development deals is, well, let's see, the concrete should be being poured either today or sometime within next week. You know how that goes. The other
Yeah.
one is a land development deal, so that'll be a ground up that we're looking to syndicate and raise money for. That's kind of a little special project that we're just getting under contract now. I'm super excited about it.
Awesome. Awesome. And do you have that one? So you have the land under contract or you already purchased the land and you're looking
So
to,
the contract has been going back and forth for the past. So Ben is also an amazing negotiator, and he actually just loves it. So he's been going back and forth with the seller of the land, and what we like to do is we call it a lantern light options contract. And actually, kind of stole the idea from a friend and partner of mine, Vince. He had this deal under contract where, the standard options contract, right, where it's like you only have to close if you can build, right, or if you're approved. But when it comes to these big development deals, it's often nice to have actual permits in hand, and that's what we really try to do for some of the land deals. It's like, because the time from when you go to the city and you say, okay, this is approved for self storage, and the time that you actually have permits in hand, like truly
yeah.
shovel ready, can be, I mean, obviously it can be more than a year, but a year is a kind of normal time. So we like to, for these options contracts, these contracts that we get land development deals under, have it so that we don't close and then, oh, now we have a year and a half, 2 years, whatever, where we're still doing the rest of this permitting and wetland stuff and soil studies and mitigation if there's some wetland issues. Stuff like that can really take a long time, and then you have those associated holding costs,
Right.
which can be very expensive.
Yep. So where are these? Yeah, I know you have one in Indiana, development, right? And then
Yep, the other
where
one's
else are we?
Pennsylvania. Yeah, so we have
Pennsylvania,
facilities, Ohio. So all
Michigan.
of these, well, actually, the Pennsylvania one is finally, if it goes through, going to be something close to home, which I've been waiting for a long time. All of my facilities have been remotely run. Arkansas, Michigan, Indiana, Ohio, and now PA. Hopefully PA. But I never did any self storage investing down the street or even within a three hour drive, which is kind of where you can still go there during the day. Actually,
Yep.
right now I'm at my uncle's house. I'm in Ohio. That's why my fingers are blue. We were spray painting. We just got this set of facilities, 2 facilities, and it wasn't numbered well. And so I mentioned onboarding Gabe, my cousin, and it's just awesome to have the family involved too. They say don't mix business and family. I'm like, what are you talking about, man? I love having my family on board, and they see the whole picture, and it's just, I don't know. I love it. The whole team is running very, very well. all of our facilities have been managed by remote managers as well. These are the remote team that we've kind of initially discovered, if you will. You and I, you could say, almost fell into this, right? Remember when I think was it you that hired the first remote employee? I honestly don't remember.
It was me. We hired Tony. So I think the first Tony has been with me from the start. I, as part of my partnership with you and with Matt and with other
Yeah,
self-storage facility I have with family, my role was to come in. I didn't have the capital, right? But I came in, signed on the loan, put the whole deal together, got it going. And then I'm doing the property management, which is something that I'm still doing. But through that, we entered the virtual assistant world and onboarded Tony, and she's been fantastic and with us from the start, and doing the remote management. And I think that's kind of how we broke into that world.
yeah, I think that was kind of what got me over the hump too, like seeing you. And that was when I was making that transition from single family, multifamily. We had done that first storage deal, and then seeing you manage the whole property. I mean, obviously, you, Matt, and I were all pretty heavily involved in that, but you really digging into the back end platform that we were using and kind of getting that team up and running was what inspired me to do the exact same thing at Lantern Light Capital, at my self storage investing company. And it's interesting, right? Like just the other day, we all communicate through WhatsApp. So the structure is that every single facility of mine has the dedicated manager. So you have, say you have 5 facilities, right? So each one gets
Yeah.
a remote manager that really takes adoption of that facility. They know the boots on the ground guy. They literally text them back and forth. So you have somebody, we use folks from Egypt and the Philippines. You have somebody that knows that facility. I always go, because I like to see my facilities. I always go, take video, do a bunch of pictures, and get them a feel for the actual location of that facility. Obviously, Google Maps and all this, so they know that facility. Then they're communicating one-on-one through text with the boots on the ground manager. So they have their cell phone, and if there's an issue, a leak, an overlock, I mean, God knows there's more than just that goes on. There's like a wasp nest in the key code entry thing. The manager takes care of that, right? They
Yeah.
communicate back and forth with the boots on the ground guy, and they're kind of buddies too. So we have that model where each facility gets a manager. This set of facilities are very close, so we're using one manager for 2 facilities, but whatever. Each facility gets a manager. Then we have the higher level manager who is basically overseeing all of them. And that's our guy's name is Arist. He's been with us from the very beginning as well. And so he ends up getting to know and onboard all those other managers. And he doesn't know every tiny, tiny little detail. Like he doesn't have the personal relationship with every single boots on the ground guy like the facility managers do, but he knows those facilities. He can easily step in, and if one of our guys was out for the day or whatever, wants to take a little vacation, he can step in and run that facility easy peasy. And then if that facility manager has a problem, they escalate it up, interact with I hate the term, but our regional manager. It sounds so corporate, but whatever. That's what we came up with. Interact with our regional manager, and then they can, kind of come up with a solution there. Of course, if it's some huge thing, they bring it all the way up the food chain to me, and then that's also how our call center is structured, which we actually just deployed. So, we have multiple different roles within our company that we've grown, and I guess
Yeah.
it kind of happened very organically, and I maybe I wasn't fully aware of what we were building as we were doing this, but like I look back and I mean, our WhatsApp chat is just always blowing up. We have WhatsApp chats, groups, because it's very popular. WhatsApp is a very popular communication platform akin to Slack or Teams or whatever. Our WhatsApp chats are just blowing up all the time. I always feel like I'm kind of missing something, but then I scroll back to the chats and I'm like, oh, it's just you guys working and solving problems together. And I'm like, damn, all right, I love it.
So tell me a little bit more about like what these guys do, right? So you have, you said 5 or 6 facilities, maybe the sixth
Yep,
one's a ground up, but you
yep,
have a manager at each one.
yep.
How involved are you in the management compared to what they are able to take care of? Like, is it kind of the 80-20? If they're taking care of 80% of the stuff, you get involved in about 20% comes back to you, or is it even, is it better or worse than that?
I'd say 20% of the higher level, not even higher level, 20% of the decision making I'm involved in, but definitely not 20% of the actual work. No way. These facilities do, well, they don't require a lot of work. Those are the guys we buy the facilities from, the guys that just abandon them and just hope the check comes into their like mailbox, right? Um, but if done properly, these facilities require real work. And so that day to day of answering phones, dealing with tenant issues, one of our little policies or procedures, whatever you want to call it, is that every time a new tenant moves in, our boots on the ground, or sorry, our manager calls that person um, and
Okay.
welcomes them to the facility, right? Because it's all online. And then they
Yeah.
call them if there's any issues. Like our one facility kept having this issue. We dug into it. It was really tough to solve. It was a silly little thing. I think it was the way the numbers were put on the door. You could get confused as to which door was yours because we actually had it kind of on the side of the
Yeah.
wall instead of right on the unit door. And so I think some of the folks were getting confused as to which door. And so we'd always have this mix up. It happened a bunch of different times where it's like, oh, somebody's already in my unit. And so what we did while we were waiting to paint the numbers on the front of the door, I said, you know what? Just call every single customer the second they move in. Make sure they know the gate code. Make sure they know your email, your phone number, so they can text or call you and tell them to save it. Right. So so the customer has direct communication with text too to
I
our
love that.
manager, and then they told them the door issue. Right. So that was like it's not a hard stop. In medicine we have like a term called a hard stop, but it doesn't like force them to pick the right door.
Yeah.
The only way to do that would be like fully electronic door systems, which we don't have at all of our facilities. But it solved that issue to the vast degree. And then, of course, our boots on the ground guy eventually came out and put new numbering on those doors. But that stuck, that system. So now all of our facilities, the customers, when they first book online, right, because it's a lot of online booking, they get a call. Hey, welcome to the facility. My name is Arist, or my name is Da, is one of our managers. Dariel is her name. We call her Da. My name's Da. Welcome to the facility. We're glad to have you, blah, blah, blah. If you need anything, here's my number, here's my email, that whole thing. And then the customer also feels like, oh, cool. Like these guys are responsive. These guys,
Right.
oh my God, I have my Apple Watch on, and I don't know if it's gonna like ruin the podcast. This is the WhatsApp.
It's all good.
At some point, I might have to figure out. I like watching it. I gotta throw my Apple Watch because I swear to God, it is like
Dude, I can't do them, man.
buzzing.
I'm connected enough, you know what I mean? And I have to check in my phone enough, and it's like I want to disconnect, not reconnect, but yeah,
I
there's
love
plus.
watching. I love watching them
Well, it's good in
go.
the ER,
Right?
right? Too. Like you have it on
Yeah.
your wrist in the ER. Like if you're working, it's like that's how
Yeah.
you're able to like, if somebody needs to get a hold of you, like there it
Yeah.
is, right? You can't be like looking at your phone all the time. But I think at least it seems like that in the hospitals. A lot of doctors, a lot of nurses, they use the Apple Watch, and it's
Yeah.
good.
No, but I like watching. So it's like I was saying, I see the WhatsApp groups, I see the email, I see even text because we use text
Yeah.
too. I see these going back and forth, and then I read through them. I'm like, geez, I don't even need to be involved in this. This really is my team working and doing awesome things. And my first, the first role we ever filled was just deal analysis, right? So within the self storage investing
Hmm.
realm, deal analysis is huge, right? You can Operations is very, very important. That's what I'm very passionate about that.
Yeah.
But finding good deals, like if you find a good deal, you can make it work. And so if you are trying to be a self-storage investor, the first problem you need to solve, and that was one of the first problems we solved and continue to work on, right? We're always working on that, is deal analysis. And that's finding deals, cold calling for deals, analyzing the deals, putting in offers and interacting with the sellers in various degrees, whether it's the first contact, whether
Right.
it's just, a cold call with them or the continued back and forth with the seller. So there's a whole process there. And that was the first thing that we used a remote employee for. From there, then we started, doing deals, running the facilities. That's when the facility manager role came into play. And now we actually just deployed. We're using an awesome call center. I got to give props to them, Moody Management. They do a really good job. I love them. But we ended up realizing that, hey, we have enough in-house crew to run our own call center. I was a little nervous about it for a bit. Like, damn, I'm gonna have to launch this whole thing. But one of our virtual assistants, our remote employees, because I don't like to think of them as assistants, right? Like, this is me growing the team. And don't let me downplay, oh, this is passive. These guys are just chatting on my WhatsApp groups and they're doing all the work. Like, no, we grew this team. Like, absolutely. We trained them and we, cultivate them. We empower them. They're not just doing little tasks. These aren't just like guys that are just banging out tasks. No, these are folks that are running the team. And so we actually just started our own internal call center with the help of one of our virtual assistants, because he had significant experience in that. And it's going very well. Our time, to me, the biggest things that matter with the call center, and I would encourage you, if you own a call center, you need to know, and I'm not like a super high-end call center analytics type guy, but I know the basics, is time to answer and dropped calls. So which are correlated, obviously. Like, if your folks are on hold for over 20 seconds, 30 seconds, your number of dropped calls, dead calls, is going to go up exponentially. So to me, that's a never. If you're running a customer support thing, okay, you call customer support, they put you on hold, fine. But if you're running, to us, obviously customer support matters a lot, and it's the same call center for us. I'm just saying, you look at other call centers, yes, I get it why they have 2-3 minute wait times, 5 minutes, I'm on hold with a damn credit card company, whatever. But if you're running sales, inbound sales from your Google pay-per-click, that you're paying good money for those clicks and those conversions, and your call guy's not answering the phone within 10 seconds and you're letting calls drop, you're literally just wasting that literally a hot lead.
Yeah.
You're just throwing away. And so we realized that we could do this. And we actually, the way you set up, it depends on your call management software or your calling software. A lot of them have these, you ever see kind of workflow diagrams? It'll be like, oh, call comes in here, then it routes here, and it's one of those click to drag arrow things.
Sure.
We ended up setting the call center up in the same way that we're basically managing. So that hierarchy of, each facility has its own manager is the same as the way our calls are directed. And then, of course, if that person's busy, it can route to the next guy. And those next guys, I mean, if you know how to manage one storage facility, you can easily take an inbound sales call because we're using the same technology on the back end. I mean, you might not be best buddies with the boots on the ground guy, with the Blake, which is our OG boots on the ground guy. Shout out to my boy Blake, who is just opening a pool hall in one of our facilities, Tats Pool Hall, a little conversion. Go get him, Blake. He's badass.
It's the most unique form of advertising for self-storage facility I've ever come across.
Dude. Oh, I love it.
People are there playing pool.
Yep.
Is it alcohol allowed too? Are they drinking?
Yeah. Yeah, beer.
Beer. Wow. So they
In
can
a
have
separate-
beer. They
it's
can
like a
play
separate-
pool. But then it's all
Yep.
these people when they want to store stuff. It's like, hey, that's the one. That's a very unique draw. I like that.
Yep.
Never heard of anybody else doing anything like it.
No, it's cool. Like, I like having alternative things in some of our facilities that are tertiary market facilities. It's like, let's build that place up, right?
Yeah.
Some folks, they want to do like a little yard sale or whatever. It's like, okay, fine. These are the smaller tertiary facilities. A food truck wants to park their truck out in front of my facility. Go ahead. You want to have a little festival or something? Go ahead. Like, those aren't my big, class A facilities. Those hopefully run on their own, right? They don't need to have these other ancillary type draws. But if you take a facility, the one
Yeah.
I'm getting at was it was kind of it was super dilapidated, actually. It was full of trash, effectively zero occupancy. And we started to kind of pitch all these different things, and now it's like a little hive almost. I'm like, you go there and cars are just moving in and out of this place all day. I'm like, yeah, let's do it.
What's occupancy now, and how long's it been?
Uh, Only, let's see, we've really launched 6 months ago. We're at 30% occupancy from zero.
Amazing.
Yeah, so we're
Amazing.
chugging away at that. Um,
It's
I
great.
still get those text messages to my phone, and this is during this market, right? The market's softening with self storage. Obviously, very resistant during down times, but like, we're slowly chugging up. Like, I'm clawing for every single customer. I'll fight for them. But yeah, to get back to the call center, it's like we did our deal analysis guy. We then launched a managerial type role, a remote employee role there.
Yep.
And then, or now, I guess, we're launching our call center, and it's going very well.
Right.
We answer calls almost immediately every time, right? We're not grossly, and this is, I guess I'll just talk trash here. I mean, some of these big commercial call centers, I mean, they're a room with 500 people that are answering calls for God knows what. Definitely not self storage. Um, Not only self storage, I should say. They're answering calls for some toy company that has product support. They're answering a call for your self storage facilities and 20 other ones. They're answering a call for,
Yeah.
some other business that has nothing to do with, self
Can be
storage
extremely
or,
frustrating.
yeah. And so that's, you start talking to some of these owners that are very unhappy with their call centers. They're like, yeah, this guy's answering calls for like completely other different companies. They're booking at a restaurant,
Yeah.
fixing the batteries that didn't come in their children's toy, and they're dealing with my storage facility. So they don't know anything about your facility. And like I said, if my call gets routed from my boots on the ground, or I keep saying boots on the ground, if my call gets routed from my manager to the one that manages a facility in the other state, well, one, these guys all know each other. They talk to each other, all my managers. They can handle it like it's nothing. I mean, on the off chance that they can't handle one thing, like, oh, hey, the lady called for door 15 that had a spring issue. I don't know the situation for that. Let me take the door lady's number. Like, okay,
Do you
fine.
have a like a ratio for the number of like people, right?
Yeah.
Virtual employees
Yep.
per net rentable square footage. So is it like, hey, you
Not
got
yet.
one person can
Yeah.
have about 50,000 square feet handled?
Not yet. I think I'd have to, that gets into, you can talk about queuing theory with the call centers. There's an entire like mathematics behind that, which I've read about and like understand a little bit. This is when you start to hit very significant scale. You can start to dig more into these metrics. I think, and this gets into what you and I are doing with Maven Success with our virtual assistant staffing company. This kind of gets into the speech that I give when customers are like, oh, well, how can we implement a remote employee? And the big value pitch of using these remote employees is they're typically anywhere from $5 to $10 an hour. 5 to 8 is a little more of a tighter range. So, and these are great, wages in these countries where we're looking for folks, Egypt and the Philippines. These are these are above average wages, like higher than an engineer, higher than a doctor in many cases. And it's like, okay, this is great for them.
Yeah.
Obviously, the price point fits here too. And these aren't terribly low wages either. I mean, what's minimum wage here? 7.25, right? But this whole conversation gets into how when I'm talking to business owners about what you and I do at Maven Success, it's like, what's the best way to like try a virtual assistant or a remote employee? And I think the best way to do it, you don't have to be super analytical from the beginning. I think doing the hands-on approach, especially if you already have you talk to a lot of these companies and they have their head of operations or the sweet managerial lady that takes phone calls, that's actually kind of a nitty gritty lady too. You all know who she is. She's nice on the phone, but then if things aren't going perfectly, she's like, get it in line. You take that lady and you have her onboard one or two of these remote employees and show them the ropes. And it's really, to me, training these remote teams is about training them, about guiding them like any other employee. And you'll hear about this you read about this in different podcasts and books on growing teams. And the way I like to think about it is, if this person is not doing their job properly, sure, there are some folks that you hire that are not capable of doing a job, or they're in the wrong role, right? You put somebody who's an amazing sales and customer support and you put them in an accounting role. It's like, what are you doing? But that can happen. But a lot of times, if somebody is struggling in a role, it's not that they can't do it, it's that you're not training them right. It's on me. Right. And on the rest of my team that I've trained. And so when we onboard somebody new, we've slowly built out a system of Loom videos, which is that little screen recording app where you have your little face talking in the corner. We have onboarding procedures, and there's that personal touch, like an hour of one-on-one screen time with getting feedback, seeing how they're doing at their job, actually looking at their screen sharing over Zoom can be worth so much. It's like, oh my gosh, you were hung up on this little thing. Geez, I can't believe nobody told you that. Like, I guess that's my fault. We should have told you that. And then they're doing 10 times better. You do have to train these remote employees like you would anybody else. Would you just hire a random employee and say, well, good luck, off you go? It's like, no, that's not a thing. Yeah. You'd put the time into it. That's why I'm always harping on that word, virtual assistant. Like, you and I use that in our content and on the website for Maven Success, because that's the number one searched keyword. Right. And it's like, well, we got to use virtual assistant, but then we always try to spin it. And again, it's not just corporate, speak BS. Like, these are remote employees, plain and simple.
Yep. They are remote professionals, remote employees. They're just people, really, on the other side of the world. They are well educated, oftentimes more educated than I am. Right. Like one guy working for me, he has a master's in engineering. And he's extremely smart, very bright guy. And I'm thrilled to have him on the team. And he's thrilled to be on my team, right? Because to him, it's steady work. It's a full-time job. He's getting paid very well for where he's at. And it works for both of us, because he's an engineer, but he doesn't have the connections to be in the oil industry over in Egypt, right? So it's like, well, what is he going to do? He doesn't have a job, and he's not able to break into that industry. So he comes and he works for me full time, which is amazing.
And he probably gets paid double what he would get as an engineer over there.
Probably, yep. And I don't remember his exact rate, but he's probably somewhere around the $7 an hour range, right? So let me ask you this. There's so many mom and pop operators, and I mean that as like small or individual operators, right? Not necessarily like old school, but even like new self-storage owners just in the past few years who have purchased facilities, I should say. at the end of the day, we are here, right, to maximize, optimize our time from a work standpoint and from a personal life standpoint, right? It's like everybody wants to use, like, have their highest and best use of their time, and sometimes
Yeah.
that's like just hanging out with your family, and it's going taking care of your health, it's getting exercise, whatever that is. And then you have that inside the business as well, right? You kind of always have that 80-20 where 20% of the time you spend is actually producing 80% of the value, and vice versa, right? 80% of the time that you're spending is really only producing 20% of that value. So my question to you is, how would you advise people who are interested in hiring their own remote employee, to really buy back their time and optimize the time that they do spend, right, in their business and in their personal life to just maximize, optimize the value of their output?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a classic time conversation, right? Um, to me, I I like what I do, and personally, obviously, I love my family, but like I wrote my family into the business
Yeah,
as well.
absolutely.
We grow. We're growing here at Lantern Light Capital. I mean, we're growing here at Maven Success too, and my family and friends are all involved in that. So I love it. I have a ton of fun. My goal is not to just like make my life fully passive.
Right.
That being said, my goal with these remote teams is to grow a damn good team. Build these self storage facilities, bring value to our investors, and really scale. But kind of what you're getting at. I mean, there is a significant, and I've talked to these investors. So like, no, I'm pretty much done. Like my goal is to take my portfolio of storage facilities or my company or my like aesthetics company or whatever, my who's the guy that I just? Oh, he was a construction manager. He has his whole company, and he's getting to the point where it can be automated. Right, it's at that scale, but there's still these kind of like little annoying things that he still needs to do. I spoke with a was he a real? He was a realtor, but then he also managed a bunch of different multifamily units, and same kind of thing. Right, he's happy where he was, but he really wanted to start like, okay, I'm done doing all this little stuff myself. And what my advice is, and the way I kind of got into managing these teams and letting them work on their own, was you bring somebody on board and you really onboard them authentically, um, uh, to explore the virtual assistant type market a little more. That conversation's a bit interesting. There's a lot of different models out there. Some of the models are, you give us tasks, right? So you have this big company, and they employ 100 different remote employees, right? You give us a task and we do it. Bup, 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 bup. Well, that can be a decent model, and right, that's their whole pitch is like, oh yeah, free up your time and stuff like that. But the thing I don't like about that model, kind of similar to that call center type example where you have a big call center and they don't really know your company that well. I mean, that's it. They just don't know your company that well. They're getting your like requests, and then they're having their team, which can be huge, do these little micro tasks, and there's a lot of room for error. So that's why, at Maven, I always say these are remote employees, remote professionals, because
Yeah.
sure, you want to hire one of those companies, go ahead, give it a shot. And, you can just throw them tasks all day and maybe offload some stuff. But I think it's a lot better. Well, I know it's a lot better to hire an employee, a person that knows your company, that knows you, that knows what you want, and onboard them 1, 2, 3 months. When we talk to folks that are interested in this at Maven, I mean, I'll tell them like, no, just start with one guy. Don't, say it's even a call center. Like we have a couple call centers as clients, and I'm like, okay, you have a call center of 15 people and you want to start having maybe some of them quit, right? You want to have a couple of them be remote employees. It's like, okay, well, don't replace your whole staff to start with. Start building those systems.
Yeah.
and understand what it's like to onboard a remote employee. And there can be issues, right? Like there can be subtle cultural issues in how they interact on the phone. It's like things like that. But like understand that, get better at that. And before you know it, you'll have this system and you can onboard these folks. And then your remote employees can start training each other and you become an expert at growing the team. That's my authentic answer, not the oh, free up your time, passive income. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I
I
think we both know we've come to realize, or at least I have, right? And maybe you already always realized is that a lot of the growth, or a lot of the personal growth and the personal joy is in the development. It's in the
Yeah,
building. It's like it's fun, right? Now there's a point where it's
yeah,
like not fun when you can't like, you're just struggling to meet payroll, or you're struggling to just, pay your credit card bill, whatever that is. That's not really fun, but it's it's also, yeah, sure, it's fun getting to the point where you're just making tons of like passive income. Like that's fantastic.
yeah.
But the build from that 0 to 100, that is like where a lot of the joy comes from. And so I don't think either one of us, right? It's like kind of in our DNA where, sure, no matter how big we get, we're always going to keep going
Yeah.
because we have
Yep.
that
Absolutely.
personal growth trait within
Yep.
us. So that's a lot of fun for us. And also, when I say optimize time, right, it's less about like, okay, like how do I make everything fully automated, and it's more about how do I make sure that the input that I have, the time that I put in, is being optimized, meaning like it is truly the best use of my time.
Yeah.
So, is the best use of your time coordinating with the boots on the ground, the maintenance guy, about which units to overlock or not overlock? No, it's
The
not,
best
right?
use
That's
of my time this weekend was the reason my fingers are blue is because I went out with my family and we bonded and
because,
we
yes,
spray painted stenciled numbers on our covered storage units and we could have
yeah,
hired somebody to do it, but you know what? We brought the kids out there and we did it and it was great.
right.
I have
So it's like,
not
what's
had
the
so much fun. Like it was great. And you know what? Stenciling is hard. You got it. They sell these stencils that are like they're like this. The stencil's 6 inches, and then the area so you don't overspray with the paint is like 1 inch. I'm like, what the hell? So we had to build like cardboard cutouts, whatever. It was great, and you know what? That was the best use of my time,
that's
bonding
so
with my
funny.
family and
Exactly. Yeah.
bringing them on board and talking about storage as we do. That kind of little bit of manual labor. Like I loved it.
Yeah.
As
And you're
opposed to being at home grinding out a bunch of like calls and back end managerial BS. Like, I loved it. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's clearly a difference. It's like, yes, you could have hired somebody, a maintenance person, to go do this and redo all the numbers,
Probably
but
won't stencil again, but
exactly, you didn't want to. It's not. That's not what it's
I had
about. And
so much fun. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
and you're teaching your kids. How old's Junior there? He's what, like four,
He's 5. He's
five?
5 now.
Okay, so he's
Yeah.
5, and you have him out working on a self storage facility.
He loves
Uh,
it. Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. That's so cool. It's amazing.
He's a smart kiddo. He's legit. Yeah.
I'm
I
sure,
love him.
man. I'm
Good
sure
boy.
he's going to be doing his own
I
entrepreneurial
gotta
adventures
say
sooner or
one
later.
more thing. And me and you got okay. So you know how we have like different names for personas. It's like, oh, we need another Blake, right? That's my shorthand for a really good,
Yeah.
cost-effective, trustworthy boots on the ground guy. We need a name for the. Remember, I mentioned like, oh, that managerial lady at your company that is like kind of nice and sweet, but she's also like kind of can be a little bit of a stickler, right? And a lot of the companies we find have this like trusted lady. Oftentimes it's a lady, it's like that kind of
Penny, maybe?
secretarial role.
Is that what her name is in James Bond? Penny?
Yeah, it's like Penny, right? Oh
Something like
wait,
that.
that's not the lady that no. The one guy makes the devices.
Yeah,
That's
what's
Q, right?
his
Maybe,
secretary's name?
yeah,
It's
maybe it
something
is.
like that.
Maybe it is Penny. Whatever. We need a Penny. Like you need if you're going to hire a remote employee, you got to get Penny's buy-in. You know that lady in your company.
I think it's
She's the
Pennyworth.
secretary that does all the work and solves all these problems for you. And she's more like 10 times more than a secretary or 10 times more than a manager, right? Like she
Miss
knows your company.
Miss Money Penny. That's what it is.
Money penny. Yes, you need your money penny that really
She's
knows the ins and outs, the nitty gritty. And you need to get buy-in from that person, and you get her to work hand in hand with the virtual assistants. And often we find that there's like a lot of synergy there, and there's even a little bit of love, kind of, right? Because these remote professionals, they have families, and these money penny roles, they get to know the remote professional and get to care for them, kind of like their own little flock, right?
yeah.
And they're training them to be real employees at the company. But yeah, I just had to put that out there because that goes to getting buy-in and really, really training these employees to be future employees of your company.
Absolutely. So tell me this. Tell me, what are we doing at Maven Success? What is the business? And like, I
Yep.
guess differentiate between being an outsourcing company, right, or somebody, or even like I think that's more of a staffing company and more of a headhunter company, which is
Sure.
what we are
Yeah.
doing. And
So the
kind of
basic pitch,
yeah,
yeah. The pitch is very straightforward. Me and you kind of went over this. We help U.S. based companies find cost effective and highly vetted remote employees. So these employees typically are at $5 to $8 an hour range. At Maven, we're we want to be like super transparent on pricing, on everything. It's all on the website, mavensuccess.com. We charge a one-time fee. We charge a 35% fee of their first year's salary. So if that employee is getting $10,000 a year equivalent based on their hourly rate, then we would charge 35% of that one-time fee. Done. You get your employee. They're yours to love and to cherish till death do you part, or whatever. You get that employee. You pay them. You train them. The whole thing. And then we built in some guarantees too, right? So we have a 60-day quality guarantee. So like if you don't like this remote employee for any reason, then we will find you another one. Because a lot of work goes into finding, like we find top tier candidates. I haven't even talked about the bad experiences that we've had in this realm, because this isn't all like roses and what's the saying? Roses and butterflies? Is that a term? Anyways, this isn't an all guns and roses here. It can be it can be bad if you get a poor quality remote employee. It can be rough, right? And then you're like, oh, this guy's going to be good. Let me keep training him, right? Then my whole speech about training him, you're like down that rabbit hole for 2 months, 3 months, and you're like, no, this guy just doesn't get it. They're not, maybe they're new to business overall. They have actually no experience, and they just said they did on their resume. So anyways, we do the 60-day quality guarantee, and if you don't like your newest employee, then we'll find you another, and then we do a 1-year retention guarantee. So we don't think that these remote employees will leave within a year, but if they end up having a family issue or they find another job that they want to take, which I doubt it, because again, we coach our customers to this, like, there's synergy here. Like you're hiring a remote employee, treating them right, treating them like an employee, not just an assistant, and
Yep.
you're paying them good wages based on the average wage for that country. And so like we want you to treat your newest employee right and do what's right by them. But if for whatever reason they end up leaving the job within a year, you paid this significant one-time fee, the headhunting fee, we'll find you another remote employee if they leave within that first year. So, pretty straightforward. Find you somebody awesome. We charge 35% of their first year salary. Average wages are from $5 to $8 an hour. We have a 60-day quality guarantee. We have a 1-year retention guarantee. And that's it. I mean, how we vet these guys on the back end, that's a whole conversation in
Yeah, talk
itself.
about that. I would love to hear about that because I think you've been focused more on that side of things.
Yeah. Well,
And
we just had a really well, I will say, at first, I wasn't actually as focused on that as I thought we should be. Um, because we had just onboarded Samar, who is she's like this sweet, kind of nice head of VA acquisitions, and then she gets in there and just like tears these people to shreds, like she knows whether they're good or not, whether they're BSing or not. And like if you get past Samar, she's vetting and interviewing hundreds of candidates to place these folks. And she knows, she has the experience. That's, I remember first asking her, I said, to what scale can you operate and how are you going to vet these people? She said, I got this. Like, I know, we're going to have the classic, they apply to their job and,
yeah,
they go through the checklist, they send their resume, like, of course, but there's more to it than that. You need to make sure they're quality. And that's what Samar did. We're starting to implement, though, more systems and structure into that as we scale larger and larger. But vetting these guys oftentimes comes down to getting them. So you get this large kind of funnel of applications, right? So you get hundreds and hundreds of applications. We sift through those. We try to throw out ones that are clearly not quality, but the problem is you don't want to miss somebody that's really, really good, because there's guys out there that, I mean, you and I are like, oh my God, I can't believe we're giving this guy away. We should hire them internally, right? We
I
just don't have a
know, I
job
know.
for them. I know that was our last group. Our last group was so good. Anyways, you don't want to miss one of those guys that just didn't look good on his resume. So that's when the manual kind of review comes into play. We're implementing a new testing system. We'll see how that works. I'm excited about it. To where you've done this before at different jobs, right? You do like the personality testing, the skill based testing.
Yep.
I think that can be very useful. But in the end, it's all of those things. A large amount of applications, filtering them out, putting them through testing, and then finally that really personal touch that our VA acquisition team does. And they're interviewing these guys extensively and interviewing multiple folks to place one.
Yep.
They're interviewing, I think the last time we looked,
I think it's
basically I
20.
just took,
I think they're interviewing,
yeah,
they're going through 20 candidates for every
it's a lot.
single one they place. So,
Yeah.
which leads me to the next question, right? Is, and I might have a different answer than you do for this, but for the people who are like, okay, that's great, but why don't I just go hire somebody off of Upwork or go on Fiverr and hire this remote employee? What is your response to that?
I think it just gets into that numbers game thing to me. Um, there is significant, and that gets into the bad side, right? Of hiring remote employees. Oh, this cost per hour is so low. Oh my gosh. And then you end up getting somebody who really just doesn't have the skills or the critical thinking ability, or the
Yeah.
experience to perform in the role you're putting them at. And then you end up kind of screwing around basically for 2, 3, 4 months, and then you're like, okay, we gotta
Yeah.
cut this whole thing off. It's just not working. They don't know this role. Like,
Right.
I'm not gonna hire Sean to be an ER doctor. I'm sorry. You can be my like coach and like give me like moral support there. You're good
Sure.
at that. But yeah, and I think that's the real downside. These platforms are flooded with thousands and thousands of people. And so, I mean, that's again, the model that we built at Maven is it's super transparent and super. I mean, it's really simple. If you want to go out and try to find your own remote employee, like you can. It's not actual rocket science.
Right.
But I would venture to say that nobody can find you somebody better than we can.
I agree.
And the downside of bringing on board somebody that isn't good is actually somewhat significant. You
Yeah.
really got to take that into the calculus because, again, that wasted time does become significant.
Absolutely.
And then there's even it's like, well, we tried this once and failed, and then you just completely write off this entire
Right.
resource
Right.
that a lot of people are using. right? And we know work is harder and good employees are harder and harder to find.
Yep.
And well, I mean, that's what we're providing is damn good, and really cool employees that we love.
I want to add a couple other things in there. First of all, it took me years to hire my first remote employee. So even though I knew I needed to hire a remote employee, right? I needed to hire somebody who could help me with property management because even before I was in self-storage, I had rental properties. I had small multifamily rental properties. I still have them. And I'm at work. I still have a W-2 job, and I'm getting these property maintenance issues and calls and texts. And I've dealt with the stuff of like, okay, I didn't have the cleaner coordinated, right, for the move out. Somebody's moving in the next day, and I've spent the entire night cleaning a unit that was filthy, right? And those are the things that kind of slip through the cracks where if you had a remote employee on your team, then they have everything like the checklists, the standard operating procedures. They'll catch those things, right? As long as they are trained right and they're doing their job. But it took me years to get over that hump. And I don't know why, but I think, it's a bit of a difficult thing to do. So from that angle, I would say, look, that's why part of the reason we built this is to help you kind of take that initial step of opening your eyes to the world of remote professionals and how they can help you. And we're here to
No,
help
it is
you
real
get it
work.
done.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's I always like to titrate the whole, I don't like it to be a sales pitch, right? And that's, I mean, that's like also sales 101, right? That's what we train our guys that we place as sales. Well, I guess there's some companies where you just want that, like, go
Yeah.
getter, sell me this pen style guy. Sure. Sometimes you got to sell a pen, but I think oftentimes when it comes down to business sales or like higher
Yeah.
level sales, it's really just straight up consultation. I mean, that's it. Like you lay out the facts, you try to understand if they're caught up on something. Like,
Yeah.
oh, well, I'm worried. Like we had one guy, I remember we were talking to him and he's like, oh, I don't know. And I couldn't figure out why he seemed like to understand the whole thing, but he was worried about the time zones. And, our VAs just completely adjust to that. That's literally just no big deal at all, right? Like it's very common to work across different time zones, and they'll work a 9 to 5 in
Yep.
Eastern Standard hours. And finally, I like realized like that was the issue there. And then I told him that. He's like, oh, okay, fine. Like now I get it. I was just so worried about that. It's like, oh, but that's not to say that onboarding a remote team is that easy, and that's part of our like sales process too, right, at Maven. And I even try to train our sales guys on that. I'm like, don't pitch our company, never pitch our company, never like, oh, sure, you can talk about Samar and how she vets the crap out of these people and how she's kind of like, strikes fear into their hearts. Although she's like very nice and pleasant, she's still like, look, gets them. But don't pitch, right? Like consult, and that's again gets into the training and the effort that we put into building our team. And I think if you put in that bit of effort up front and you get a feel for how this works, I mean, it's so valuable. And our
Yeah.
whole company, Maven, is remote employee run, right?
Yeah.
It's me, you making higher level decisions, and then the entire team is all run by remote professionals, which
Yeah.
I think is like the best, sales tactic in the entire world.
Yeah.
Because then it's like, oh yeah, I guess by very definition, if I'm in on this sales call, then this model can work,
Yeah.
right? Like, yeah, I guess I see it. I went through this whole sales funnel, got to the sales call, talked with the consultation type person, and they were all remote professionals. So yeah, I guess a remote professional sales team can work.
Yeah.
And their customer support was good, and they email me back consistently, and I ask all these questions, and they hit me up on text and WhatsApp or whatever platform I choose. Right, that's part of our whole thing too that we structured is like wherever the customer is communicating, we're communicating
Yep.
quickly, and it's like, oh, okay, So the better, I like to think the better we do at sales and support, the better we do at sales and support, right? Because it's like this like
For sure.
self-referential. I don't know, maybe that's too convoluted
No,
of a
it's
sales
just it's
pitch,
just
and it's just in my
you're
head. But
no, you're showing it through. You're not rather what you're saying essentially is you're not trying to sell something by talking about something. You are selling something by the action, by showing. It's proof of concept, right? Like they want to hire somebody on the other side of the world. They're like, well, I'm not sure if this will work or not, but the entire time they are being consulted by people from the other side of the world. So the proof is in the entire process itself.
you wanted to say pudding or no? You were thinking about saying pudding? That gets into like the conversation of like this podcast in itself, like a self-referential, like us talking about our companies and how badass we are. It's like, I don't know. It really gets to the authenticity thing. I even think about it with this podcast, right? It's like, okay, if we get on this show and we bullshit and we like hawk our wares, people see through that really
Yeah. Yeah.
friggin' quick, man. And that's kind of how I like to operate with all of our businesses is like, and that's the best sales technique there is, right?
Yep.
Like true authenticity. And these people say, okay, I get it, I see the whole thing, like does it work for my company or doesn't it? And that's how we, oh, somebody's here, dog is barking, and that's how we train our team, and then we
I
have
want to say
fun doing it.
one other thing too. I've been down. You absolutely can. You can go to Upwork and you can hire a remote employee and bring them on board, and that's how I got started. That's how we got started, and there's nothing wrong with that. One problem that I did run into, and is that I ended up hiring people way beyond the actual value of where they should be. And what I mean is
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I've hired a $12 an hour employee, put several months into that employee, and had to fire that employee because it it was a $4 to $5 an hour employee. Now, part of that reason, right, is that Upwork, these systems, they take a percentage of the fee. The other part is that people, you can go on there and it's hard to actually vet somebody through there. I mean, you can go, you can do it on an individual basis and interview them, but you don't always know what you're getting. And I think on the flip side of that, right, people know that when you're going on there, there are people who will completely overpay because the economies of scale are very different in these different countries. So I think that's one thing that we really try to focus on is matching the correct like price points and values based on skill levels, based on experience, based on education, so that you're not paying like somebody $12 an hour, and they really, you could get the exact same person, or even possibly a better person for literally half that amount, like $6 an
Yeah,
hour.
yeah,
And I just think that's a really important thing to
yeah.
consider and to know and to learn the
This
market.
is this gets into the whole. It's popular in the digital marketing realm, which I love digital marketing. It
Yep.
gets in, and this is just kind of bullshitting around me and you, but this gets into how when you interact with these digital marketers, how they price themselves is kind of interesting, right? Because it's like, well, I'm worth this much. Well, are you worth that much? And they'll push prices so high, and it's like, well, there's this internal dialogue within that industry of we deserve to get paid this much, but there's a lot of really crummy digital marketers out there. That don't do a good job, that are asking for very, very high monthly like retainer fees effectively. I don't know. I like to talk about that industry a lot, but yeah, it's nice to have somebody priced properly. But that's kind of the plight of the consumer in a way. The business being the consumer of these third party type services, whether it be digital marketing, or managerial or call center or whatever. They're pitching this product as if it's worth so much, but oftentimes what you get, like my call center example before, it doesn't match up with what you're paying. But,
Yeah.
yeah. Anyways, man, I got to run here. Can I get to the part of the show where I just give the shout out and just hawk my
Absolutely.
wares?
How can people get in touch with you if they want to reach out, if they want to learn more about self-storage or development or the virtual assistant world, any of that? Give me the contacts.
Absolutely. Well, you can always check out our investing company, Lantern Light Capital, at lanternlightcap.com. The phone number for us is on that website as well, which I'm looking up right now. It goes directly to me, Google Voice, 484-228-1242. If you're interested in self-storage investing, absolutely, please reach out. That's lanternlightcap.com. 484-228-1242. You can email me, Jordan at lanternlightcap.com. And if you're interested in hiring a remote professional or just BSing a little bit with me over the phone, whether one of these guys might work for you, then obviously you can reach out. Maven Success, MavenSuccess, mavensuccess.com. I believe there's also, let's see, yeah, Ali, our head of sales, he mans that phone number on the top of Maven Success as well. So we have text set up, right, Sean? I think you can even text
They
that
can
number.
text that number.
Yeah, call,
we'll go to the
text,
website.
yep, or direct. He also mans the little chat feature. So if you want to interview a real remote professional, just text Ali and get him on a call, right then and there. We tell him if a customer wants to talk to you, you get on the phone with them or you do a video chat with them right now if it is at all possible.
Yep.
So if you just want to interview him, chat with him, talk about his experience, that's what I tell him to talk about the most is talk about yourself, talk about your experience as a remote professional, or one of our other sales guys you might end up getting. But that's it, my friends. Yeah.
All right, Jordan, it was great to have you on the show again, and hopefully we'll do another. Enjoy your weekend, and have fun stencil painting.
God bless. I think we finished them all. I only messed up one number.
All right, man. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. See you, bud.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Another episode of The Gentle Art of Crushing It. It was an amazing episode. We know we sure learned a lot, and we hope you did as well. We want to take a second and thank you so much for viewing or listening to this episode. And please just know that we only ask for one favor, and that is to make this life magnificent. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.